Tottenham today beat Crystal Palace 4-1. Tra-la-la, Isaac. A game that we should be 2-0 against this team. Now we're 1-1.
We'll take it. Better than 0-2.
Bale looked good. Kane looked good. Team looked pretty solid.
This was one I deftly got wrong on Friday. I'll admit that.
I told you I wouldn't pick it, and I was the same way. Yeah.
Annoying.
Yeah. Yeah. And then our last one is just Arsenal drawing to Burnley 1-1. And actually, Aaron, when I listened to our tape on Friday, that's where I left it with that. I was like, I'm not touching it, but if I had to, I'd leave this as a 1-1 draw. Because I told you on Friday, Burnley's one of those teams. But I do have to say, for Arsenal to dominate this game and to lose it like this, or to lose the points, to drop the points, that's not great. That's not great.
Yeah, and especially with a 6-minute goal from Aubameyang, and then to do nothing after that, really, and just kind of try to hold on. That's really disappointing as an Arsenal fan, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Yeah, talk about needing an exercise in empathy, because Arsenal's season would be equally frustrating just because they have, unlike Wolves, they have shown really awesome style of play and forward thinking. And then there are games like this and others that's just, it's roller coaster.
But looking forward to next week, as we saw today, form goes out the window with the derby. So just saying.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. It's like Arsenal doesn't have a form, because it's like they lose one week, win next week, and no one knows.
It's true, Isaac, and I think it's tough to talk about. And I guess you could say this. Teams like Wolves and Arsenal are tough to talk about because when you get caught up in this season, you get frustrated. But when you really look at it on the whole, this is a transitional year for them. But as fans, it's hard to accept that.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
I think the tough thing for fans is that it's been a transitional year for Arsenal for the past almost 2 decades. It feels like
we didn't say it, Isaac. We didn't say it.
At least for the past decade, that's what it's felt like. So
feels. I'm just gonna let that
harsh,
let that
maybe
sit.
Harsh.
So with that, you guys enjoy the 10-minute friendly. It's an awesome interview with 2 friends of the pod, if I can take a familiar term.
Sure.
They haven't coined that, Crooked Media, have they? They better not have. I can say friend of the pod. It is on a t-shirt, but people we love dearly that we know of the pod. Talking about what team, Isaac?
So they're talking about Man U, and great conversation. Needed to have a little diversification of the voices out there. It's a good conversation, though. It's good.
So here we go. Enjoy.
All right, this is a 5-minute friendly. Very exciting because one of our podcast hosts, Aaron Johnson, is a Man U fan, right? So we hear from him a lot, arguably too much, but we now have the opportunity to get a couple other Manchester United fans in for a quick Q&A. So why don't you each introduce yourselves and tell us why you're a Man U fan. Tell us who you are. Let's start with Jordan. You can start.
All right. Well, thanks for having us. The podcast has been going great. I am Jordan. I am based out of New York. So I became a Man United fan. I went to a camp when the coaching staff and a couple of players were on tour, and vividly remember like Scholes being put in a challenge position where he was just pinging.
Wait, Scholes was there?
Like 10. Oh yeah. So it was Ferdinand. Yeah.
I thought they were like reserve players.
I mean, it makes sense, right?
Yeah.
No. Well, so actually they had a competition for the campers to try and hit probably from the PK spot. They had one of those like nets where they had certain pockets for the balls, and no camper could hit any. And they weren't big. They were like a little bit bigger than the size of the ball. So then they made a bet with Scholes that everyone that he made, that the campers would get whatever the gift was, right?
Yeah. So
they probably put him I vividly remember this. They probably put him between 20 and 25 yards out, and he hit 10 for 10. It's just wild. Oh my gosh.
Oh my god.
Yeah. So that
didn't discourage you from playing soccer? Like for me, I'd be like, I'm never gonna do this. So,
cool. I guess not.
All right, Ian, go ahead.
Ian Hancock, and I started being a Man U fan in '99 because we did not have cable growing up, except for the Olympics and the World Cup. We'd order cable and get to watch more soccer. But the Champions League final in '99, when they scored 2 goals at the very end to beat Bayern to win the treble, was, I don't remember if it was on TV, but for some reason I saw that live. And I was like, this is the greatest thing I've ever seen ever. Yeah. So, like, I have to like this team starting now. So that was it for me, the 99. Technically jumped on a bandwagon, but I didn't know any better. I was only like 10, so it's whatever.
Exactly, yeah. So I have some questions for you. And they're meant to be, like, quick, rapid-fire questions, but some of these, of course, will elicit a little bit more discussion. All right. So, Jordan, you're gonna go on first. All right, for this question. Dream summer signing.
Oh, man. Specifically, I would really like a world-class center back. I mean, just because...
Yeah.
Just to add a bit more foundation there. Like the middle skeleton of our team needs one in each spot. I don't know, man. I like the prospects of Varane, actually. So maybe that. Yeah, I'll go with that.
That's a good shout. Yeah. Okay, I like it. All right, Ian.
If I was gonna go center back, I'd probably go. So is it Jose Jimenez from Atletico?
Yeah.
If I was gonna pick a center back, but the player I've wanted them to sign for years is just like a true, absolute, like a 6.
Yeah.
Like no interest in doing anything else other than holding, tackling the crap out of people, distributing, and I think Ndidi's the best in the world at that from Leicester.
Okay.
He seems to get hurt a lot, especially the last 2 years, but I love him, and I think that could change everything. So I would love to sign like a true 6, and I think he's my favorite one right now.
All right, we'll see. All right, next one. Ian, you're up. Top 4. Yes or no?
Yes.
All right.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Okay, I just had to get that on record so when it doesn't happen, I can be like, hey, remember when, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
But, all right, okay, so next that was a softball question. That was easy. Win Europa League, Jordan.
As much as I'm hopeful, I kind of feel like that's a no. I don't know. I feel like we're getting to a spot of like fatigue's going to start to play a pretty big factor, and I think we can cling on to the top 4, but I do think Europa League's going to take a hit somewhere.
Yeah, I'm a no for Europa League also. I think there's too many, even just Arsenal and Tottenham, because they need that. They're more likely to need it more. But even them aside, Inter is just so good that in one game I'd pick them to beat anybody in the Europa League.
All right, 2 more. First one, this will go to you, Ian. Ollie, is he here to stay? Or is he out in the next, let's say, year and a half?
Next year and a half, I would say out, but probably further in that year and a half than later than sooner. It's from what I understand of the situation there, it's kind of weird because things that don't happen that fans want to happen, like signing Haaland, apparently Ole had it locked up. And then the board are the ones that were like, no, we don't want to pay it. So there's some things that aren't his fault, but so the board who also are kind of holding him back are the ones who get to decide if that's the cause to then fire him. So it's kind of weird. But ultimately, I don't want him to stay longer than the next year and a half. So I think he'd probably be out because they can do better if they want to pay for better.
Yeah. All right. Jordan.
I like him right now.
Right.
I think he brings back what we needed him to bring back, just from a culture and a passion and like the certain like foundations of the club that actually, like, if you, in my opinion, and I read an article somewhere that kind of like lit this thought, like we were never the tacticians of the game. Like Fergie wasn't a brilliant tactician, but he did the little things right and was a phenomenal player manager, and brought this side of like of passion with a rock foundation of defensive capabilities, and allowing like 3 highlight players to come up with brilliant individual skills. So like I think he's bringing back that kind of mentality right now, but I don't think he has the tactical skill set to compete in the modern game.
There are some, and I'm not gonna actually compare him to Sir Alex, but there are some comparisons to, like, Sir Alex came in, things didn't go great. They signed Cantona, which would in this case would be Bruno, and then like the next few years after that, if you look at it, they got like one key player each year in transfers in the years after that to slowly build it up. So I mean, if it might be just like some of these losses aren't Ole's fault, or some of these awful, like the Palace draw, but just like those aren't his fault. If he gets Holland and Didi and Jimenez and you know what I mean, and next year's title race is only 4 points instead of 20, then he might stay longer, not because he's developed some new tactic that takes the world over, because you just have better players.
Right, there's only so much he can do. Yeah. Tomorrow, huge match, Manchester Derby. Over under, lose by 3 goals to City.
Under, only going to lose by
Jordan.
2.
Under.
All right, so like, all right, give me your honest predictions. What are you thinking about this match, Jordan?
There is that drive that United could just come in and force something to happen, right? I think that's one of the feelings we've been having, I think, this season, and Ian, correct me if I'm wrong, we're like, as opposed to the past, probably since 2013, like there was this lack of like belief watching them, and now like you're in stoppage time, there's situations where you're still like, yeah, we can take this, we can still take this, and like that's a big feeling that hasn't been there. So if that comes out against City, and you know they got to, I mean they don't have to, but I feel like they got to take a loss at some point. That could happen. That could happen this weekend. But I think a realistic prediction, I'm with Ian, probably a 1-goal loss.
Yeah, I think was it the Mourinho year where City were so much better, but then Pogba scored 2 goals, right? They won. Was it 2-1 or 2-0? Mm-hmm. And so when you have really good players with pace like Rashford, or if Cavani plays, just a great finisher, or Bruno who can kind of make something out of nothing sometimes. I'm not gonna watch it thinking, wow, there's absolutely no shot here, but it's more like hoping like, oh, maybe something could happen. But yeah, but this is where I think Ole is good. Like He's been there, and if he's a good man manager, then it could just be a matter of they're just like all they care about in the world is winning this one game. Then yeah, they could. But at the end of the day, if Maguire and Lindelof are out there, it's.
All right. Well, thank you both for coming on. That was awesome.
Thanks for having us.
So we're going to kind of talk about all that. I mean, that was an awesome interview, Isaac. A lot of fun. I will say, when Jordan was going off at first on the Paul Scholes story, I was like,
that sounds like my dream.
One time that man. Yeah, but no, when he hit 10 for 10, I was like, oh, okay, that's a pretty good story.
Yeah, that's kind of cool.
Yeah, that's when you know it's real.
Yeah, yeah. But so let's also talk about the game today. So both of them, actually, Jordan pretty much predicted the game, but then was like, but that's not realistic, so I'll give you a realistic prediction.
Right, Jordan, exactly. Yeah, he was on the right track.
Yeah, he was on the right track. So yeah, I mean, let's talk about the game quickly. Aaron, I'm going to let you start because I did my whole Wolves thing. I'll let you start.
That's fair.
I mean, yeah, I was not too optimistic going into this. But at the same time, with our record against Man City, especially with Ollie at the helm, we've done this pretty much every time, all but one game, I believe, in the League Cup. Man U have just been able to kind of control things against City in a way that works for us. It's like the perfect matchup where we can just sit back, absorb that pressure, sit with pretty much a back 4 or 5 with a block in front of them, and just get really narrow and make sure that City can't make those quick passes 1-2s in and around the box. And we did that again in this game. I know they had a ridiculous amount of shots compared to us, but a lot of those were either blocked or shots from the top of the box that never really looked threatening. There were only a couple situations where I was thinking to myself, wow, we just got away with one. And on the other hand, on the counterattack, we looked dangerous every time. And this team's just set up perfectly to play Guardiola's style. I feel like the opposite of Guardiola's style, I should say.
And just to be honest, like the shots on target from City were right to Henderson's gloves.
Yeah, there was never like I never felt too concerned about it. Once we got the second goal, it felt like it was kind of our game to just hold on to and make sure we got the clean sheet. But yeah, overall,
it rolled in and
it was beautiful. It was beautiful. I mean, Shaw played great. James played great. I thought Martial actually had his best game in the past couple months, even though he didn't. He missed a absolute sitter that should have made it 3-0. But yeah, no, I was overall very impressed with the game. Very happy.
Yeah, they're good. And Martial, I thought on the defensive side, talk about defending from the front. He worked really, really hard in order to support Bruno dropping deep. And Ole set up with pace, knowing that there's exactly their game plan. They broke out several times. So it's good. Yeah, I think that everything you said was spot on. This is a team that, for several reasons, with their pace and their counterattacking ability, is a great opponent. Or Man City is a great opponent for them, we'll say.
Yeah, and to your point about Martial's defending too, there was one moment that's burned into my memory from this game of Martial making a sliding block in front of our own box, and it's just that is just not the Martial I thought I knew. It was great to see. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah, that's Ballon d'Or type stuff, dude.
All right, I'm gonna take all this Manchester United slime off my face that you guys are espousing and talk about it from City's perspective. Because in a lot of ways, this was an opportunity lost for City, I have to say. First of all, you give up a penalty in the first 2 minutes. And one of my highlights of this whole Manchester derby was Fernandez at the end in his interview. He's like, well, they were like, with the penalty in the first 2 minutes, you must have felt good. He's like, well, the last time we did that was against Tottenham, and we actually got beat really badly. And I was like, nice.
Fair point. Yeah.
And it's true, because you could see that Manchester United was really there to play. So now I see it's like the slime gets in me, and then I start to
but it's beautiful slime. It's good for the skin.
No, but I would say that. But what I would say is that, first of all, that penalty was so dumb, so stupid to give up. Sure. It's so early, and there were so many blue jerseys around the ball, and Jesus was like, I got it, and it was like, dude, what are you doing? And that led me to really wonder, why? First of all, why did he get the start? Understandably, he's good, and obviously I'm not talking about Aguero, but I'm talking about Phil Foden right now.
I was a bit surprised by that. Yeah. I'm agreeing with you. Yeah.
So De Jesus gets the start over Foden. I'm actually fine with that. But then he does something like that. Okay, he did have that, attempt from Riyad Mahrez, and he just missed it. So, okay, he's part of the game. He's effective. I don't want to say he sucks. But I just don't think he's as big time as Foden is. I look at Foden and I think, that guy is a guy I want on my team when I need a goal. And I thought to sub him in, I think it was at the 65th minute, Isaac. So it wasn't a sub at the half.
It might have been later than that too. Yeah, I think it was much later. Yeah.
So I thought that Phil Foden sub was a terrible mistake. Terrible mistake that it took so long.
Yeah, it came way too late. I mean, he should have been on at least 60th minute, I think, because it was just so obvious watching, from our perspective at least, that City was not breaking down Man U. So to wait that long to make a change, except for Kyle Walker coming in for Cancelo, that's just a straight 1-to-1 swap. But not changing the system, not really changing personnel in any meaningful way for that long. It was an oversight. I'm sure that there are reasons, but it just didn't look like there was a desire to really come back and break Man U down.
And Sterling, frankly, sorry, let me just finish.
Go ahead.
Sterling looked really terrible today. He had a couple of times in front of the goal and this has been a thing. This was at the beginning of the season, and he chopped off all of his hair. And I feel like, listen, when I chop off my hair, which hasn't happened since college, it was like, it's time. Look in the mirror. It's time to change my ways. Like, new start. And he had done really, like, I'm telling you, he chopped off his hair.
Yeah, right,
Man City started playing really well. Just saying. And today, this is my last thing. They really faced their first adversity in like 22 matches or something like that. And they did not, they dominated, but they did not look like they were confident that they were going to be able to come back and win it at any time. And we talked last week about Bayern and City, and I'm down on City after this week.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think going back to the Gabriel Jesus point, I think the point of starting him in this game, and I'm guessing that Aguero just wasn't fully fit because he wasn't even brought on at all, was just that I think where Gabriel Jesus is really good is kind of deflections in and around the box, just getting those loose balls kind of right in the goal box there. And I think they knew that Man U would be sitting back so much that you need that kind of striker presence, that kind of fox in the box, to use that old cliche. And so that's why he started. And giving away that penalty was absolutely just stupid. But I think what this game really highlighted was Man U's wingbacks, actually. I think that Shaw and Wan-Bissaka absolutely shut down Sterling and Mahrez, and they were the two probably players of the match for me. I don't think Wan-Bissaka got a lot of mentions during the game, but he every time Man U play Man City, he shuts down Raheem Sterling. Yeah. He just kind of has him in his pocket.
This, Isaac, really quickly to your point about Martial. The NBC reporters, I think it was Graham Lascelles, they were saying that on Sky Sports, which is the British broadcast, they gave the man of the match to Martial, and their response was literally, "What game are you watching?" And, like Lascelles was. So it was interesting because at the time, too, I was like, I haven't really noticed Martial, but I guess, the Sky Sports was a little bit more tuned into his defense.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd
his
still
hold-up
give
play,
it
too.
I'd still give it to Luke Shaw, but with the goal and shutting down the right side of City's attack. But, hey, Martial, and he earned a PK.
Yeah, and his hold-up play. I mean, he had a lot of situations where the ball was just pinged into him from either Fred or McTominay or one of the wingbacks, and he was able to kind of hold it up and take a little bit of pressure off, which is really all that you can ask in a situation where your back's to goal and you're in your own half and just trying to help out your defense a little bit. So I thought he did a great job at that.
No, he did. But I will just say on that second goal, Henderson's, that throw...
Yeah.
That throw was...
De Gea's got to watch out. 2 clean sheets in a row now in the Premier League for Henderson,
Yeah, I have to bring up Rashford real quick because I did ask Jordan and Ian, Rashford or Mbappe. This didn't make the final cut. But they unsurprisingly both chose Mbappe, but my brother Ian had really good insights on how or on why that is and like where he needs to grow. And it came through today, loud and clear. The fact that none of us are talking about him, and he has the pace and the power to fit into this counterattacking style perfectly. My brother used the perfect word. He said that the one area that he needs to work on the most is being decisive. And that came through so much today when he was looking for that final pass or like unsure, or taking shots when he didn't look like he was always on the front foot. But that kind of reminds me of your comments about Sterling, Jake, is that he just never looked like he knew exactly what he wanted to do, right? So I think that was part of City's problem today and part of Rashford's problem, but hopefully they'll fix that. But again, the rest of Man U totally rallying around or in order to pick up the slack per se, especially on the goal scoring front that Rashford is leaving behind.
That's the one thing I totally agree with that. That Rashford struggles with making up his mind, especially when he's in and around the box. And I think that's one of the problems that Man U has is that Rashford, Greenwood, Martial, James are all kind of confidence-based players, and when they're not confident, that heavily confidence-based players. When they're not confident, they do have that indecisiveness, and that is part of why we struggle in stretches during the season, I'd say.
Well, let's start knocking off some of the aspects or some of the parts of the interview. Let's try to do this all in 5 to 6 minutes so that the people don't have to sit here for too long.
We can do it in
challenge.
Oh, well, Isaac, I appreciate that confidence. But so my first question for you, Aaron, is Jordan and Ian both mentioned a premier center back and Ndidi as signings that could really help Man U. The only thing I would just wonder about that, does that mean that Fred would be who you would replace and Lindelof would be who you would replace? Do you not feel that are they just patches for right now? They're not future people that
just patches seems harsh, but no, no, I'm kidding. I agree with that. I mean, I think you could see today Fred's energy is necessary for us right now, but he also gives the ball away a lot. He struggles in possession sometimes and is pretty limited going forward. And then Lindelof, I think in games where we sit back deep, he's great, kind of like this, but in games where we play a high line and we need him to be on the ball more, he struggles. And I think if you can get a good center back and a good holding midfielder in there, then you look at the likes of Pogba, Fernandes, McTominay. Those guys are allowed to have the license to go forward and get in the attack and not have to worry about their defensive responsibilities as much. So I think those two signings like that would make a huge difference.
So, Isaac, I love that you asked them about top 4, and obviously they said that it's for sure.
Yeah.
I wish we could argue it.
I know. After today, I'm like, all right, fine.
Probably Everton's the best candidate right now, and I'm not going to argue whether Everton's going to find a way to bump Chelsea or Man U from.
West Ham have those 2 games in hand too, though. That's
okay, fine.
I'll throw them out there.
West Ham sitting at 45. Okay, fine, but we're not going to do West Ham. This isn't Everton West Ham radio. You guys didn't even play this weekend. That's what you just get. That 10 seconds. All right. So the Europa League, though, I thought they made a great point. And clearly, Aaron and I talked about this on Friday, that Real Sociedad game where they played everyone, I think with that Crystal Palace draw midweek, we saw that fatigue was an issue. And so when both of them said that they don't think that Europa League will happen for Man U, at first I was surprised because I really do think them to be favorites. But it is true that not only will fatigue play a factor, but also Arsenal and Tottenham need it more, and so you think that they're going to throw, their best squads, whereas it's at a certain point, Man U is not going to be so interested in doing that.
Yeah, and there's just a lot of really great teams in there, right, in the Europa League right now, and it's a lot. Even though Man U, we can agree, is highly likely to be in the Champions League next year. I at least don't really see them, pushing everything in order to win the Europa League. Their focus is just securing their top 4 next year. Yeah. Which I think, like, the players, they'll still compete, of course, but I think there is definitely a mental, I don't know, like when you know that you don't need it in order for your livelihood, like to keep players and to make the club money. I think it is a little bit of a different approach.
Yeah, I think if anything, we'll focus more on the FA Cup. Because that's a shorter route to a trophy. But at the same time, I mean, if we beat Milan, after that, I see Tottenham and Arsenal is probably the main competition the rest of the Europa League
Sounds
path.
pretty scary.
Maybe one of them. But
hold on. Well, Aaron, I want to make sure we have time to get into this because we all know you're going to say, yeah, they could do it, blah, blah, blah. We agree with you. They could do it. They're the best. They're probably top to bottom in terms of their starting lineup, the best team.
I agree with the mentality thing, though.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Like when you don't need to win, you're going to naturally lay off a little bit. So I think you're almost better off in a situation that Man U are in to just play some of the bench players, the rotations, and let them kind of prove a point and see what they can do. And you're more likely to get full intensity. So
that's for sure, because you're going to get them experience in meaningful games, and you're going to be able to maintain your Premier League, which at this point, now that you've just beat City, this is a valuable 3 points. If you can clean up against teams that you should beat, you should be good.
Mm-hmm.
But Haaland's signing was locked up, but the board said no. So when the board does things like that, which this situation would maybe say happens more often than we probably even know about, and Ollie gets blamed. So that's what was happening maybe at the beginning of this season. Holland's signing was locked up. Now, Aaron, you got me with that Wolves thing. So, do you have your ear to the stone? Or is this? Can you confirm this with your?
I do not know. I've heard rumors about that. I've heard rumors that Sancho was kind of all done and dusted, and it was just a big no from the Glazers in the end. I think there is a lot of that, and especially when it came to the pandemic and everything, there was a lot of just crossing out checks and not making things happen. But yeah, I mean, when those kind of things don't go through and a coach thinks he's going to get a player and doesn't get the player he wants, that definitely is detrimental to them, the team, and makes them look bad. And I think it's just more of a reason that Man U need a sporting director in at some point.
Do they need Holland?
I mean,
I think
need
Holland, but
Couldn't hurt.
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're replacing, and I know I've always waxed lyrical about Martial and his talent, but I think if you're replacing Martial with Holland, man, you're a much better team.
Isaac, you disagree?
Yeah. I do not disagree. No.
All right. So I have to, Isaac, you were a great interviewer just accepting what was said to you. Ferguson and Ollie having...
I feel like that was backhanded in a way.
Well, no. Well, maybe I'm talking about... No. I'm saying when they were talking about Ferguson and Ollie and them having maybe similar beginnings, it you could understand why a viewpoint from the outside is saying, so you're basically saying Ollie is like the next Ferguson?
Generous.
I mean, that's
generous.
All I'm saying is I would have snorted a little, okay. Like, Isaac, I didn't hear from you, and I'm proud of you for that. But
yeah, Ian gave a classic, I'm not going to compare Ollie and Sir Alex, but blah, 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 blah. So it was good. I think, yeah, Ian admitted that, like, they're just both... they're not necessarily known for their tactical genius right off the start. But yeah, there's no pretending that that Ollie is going to lead Man U to the fame and fortune that Sir Alex did.
Ollie always talks about kind of layering the team, and you start with kind of that foundation, which we have now, and then you just keep adding in better and better pieces to just keep improving year after year. And I mean, Ferguson always talked about that when Ollie was on the bench, because he would normally be coming on as a late sub in games, especially later in his career, he would just be kind of watching the game and learning from the coaches the whole time, and that he was always set up to kind of be a coach. And the thing a lot of people forget about Ollie is he's had a lot of experience too. Like, he was at Molde in Norway and won a lot of league titles for, I think, like 7 years. Something along those lines. Coached Cardiff. That was a disaster too. Yeah. So he does have a lot of coaching experience, just not at the top level. So I think there are comparisons, but I think it's a bit of a stretch to say that they're kind of on the same level or have the similar beginnings to some extent.
Well, Isaac, do you have any other thoughts on Manchester United, since this has become the Manchester United?
I love it. This is great.
Yeah.
Listen,
last week I had to cut it into 2 parts to put it on top, the Manchester United segment, on our new YouTube page. But
Ooh,
Isaac, first, do you have anything soccer related to say?
Nah.
No? Aaron, I'm sure you do.
Spurs.
We've done. Okay, so you can now find our episodes in video on YouTube. It is Top of the Table pod, I think. So type in Top of the Table, type in Top of the Table pod. Just keep looking until you see us. And if you don't know what we look like, well, that's going to be tough. But what were you going to say, Aaron? I saw you had something
Nothing. No, it's nothing good.
But if you enjoy the podcast and you feel like you want to see it, because I will tell you, watching them back, it is pretty fun. So that is on YouTube at, again, Top of the Table Pod. You can find us on Instagram at Top of the Table Pod. You can find us on Twitter at Top of the Table P. And of course, you can always send us an email at topofthetablepod@gmail.com. We have a nice little North London derby next week, and it should be a good episode. And we promise we will give some airtime to teams not called Manchester United next week.
I won't be on.
Oh, and don't forget to tune in to our Top of the Table Pick'em. We will make the episode on Thursday. We will post it on Friday.
Make you some money.
Yo, Aaron, I'm telling you,
All
Aaron.
right, let's. Yeah.
That guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll see you next time, everybody. Bye bye.
All right, bye.
Have a good week.